But you were offered the choice of playing, is that correct, any one of the astronauts?
Phil didn't promise me that I would get to do it, but he said, here, read the script, pick your part. See, and he assumed that I was going to, he thought that I was going to say Yeager. He assumed that, and he was kind of shocked and bothered when I told him I wanted to be Shepard, Sam Shepard, I mean Alan Shepard rather, simply because Alan Shepard was sort of the comedic part in the thing. And I told him that's the reason I want to do it. Well, with Shepard, it was a matter of research as opposed to invention, because the guy's alive. And I watched for 2 or 3 weeks thousands of feet of film and videotape on Alan Shepard, because I knew I was going to have to be, they use actual shots of Alan Shepard in the movie. I knew they were going to be cutting back and forth from NASA newsreel footage to me. So there's going to be me and Alan Shepard playing Alan Shepard in the movie. It meant, well, the first thing I knew, I was going to have to be right-handed. I'm left-handed. So I didn't wear a watch there, I wore it there. Instinctively, when I would sit down to eat, I'd use my right hand, I'd try to use my right hand to write with. Shepard would never sit talking to you like this. He was American military aristocracy. He went to Admiral Farragut prep school, then he went to Annapolis. His father had been an officer in the Army. Shepard always sat relaxed but correctly military. And even if you were taller than him, he looked down at you. I mean, this is Alan Shepard. Mm-hmm. It was, and so for doing Shepard, the window dressing was real important. I had to get his mannerisms, get all of that down.
When I was doing The Right Stuff, I was afraid to fly before then. And playing an astronaut, I figured that I had to sort of know something. So I wound up getting my pilot's license, and then from there I just kept flying, and then I started flying twins, and then I got my jet rating.
But Chuck Yeager was, worked closely with us on the film and preparing it on the details and trying to get things right. And he's such a great character. He was, trying to figure out how could we use him in the film. So he does this little cameo where he pops up in the bar where the guys from Washington have come, to see, the real Yeager and all, the Sam Shepard Yeager and so forth. And there's this kind of old, grizzly guy hanging around the bar who asks him if Harry Shearer and Jeff Goldblum, if they want something to drink. And he says, Harry Shearer says, yes, I'll have a Coke. And as he looks at Yeager, he says, in a clean glass, please. And, Yeager's a funny guy, and he loved going along with that.
Were you happy with the ad campaign that came out for The Right Stuff?
No, I was, really upset with that. I mean, I really had never wanted to make a film about astronauts. In fact, I kept quitting because as I was writing it, I said, this has got to be about test pilots. It's got to be about the secret story. It's got to be about the right stuff, about the wild guys who got us up into outer space that descended from Yeager. And when they finally put out the posters, I mean, we in San Francisco, where I live, we had hundreds of young people working on the movie, and we saw the posters. We all laughed. We said that must be the spoof of the movie, because it had that kind of lineup of astronauts and this kind of guys in silver suits that the public was sort of bored by, because that was the Life magazine image. It was exactly what the film was breaking through, and they were selling the false image. And then, of course, there was the John Glenn getting on, the presidential campaign, and can a movie make a president, and all of that was pushing it, and people weren't that interested in whether John Glenn would be president or not. And the whole real story just slipped by, and the public wasn't interested in seeing that.
They sort of hung the marketing of that movie on John Glenn, and he was running for president at the time. And I think people probably had the idea that this was like a movie, like it's going to be like going to school to go to this movie, going to a history lesson.
What are your feelings about that film now, looking back?
The Right Stuff in some way kind of set up my whole career in terms of making films that aren't considered successful at the box office. I think it's a really nice film, and I'm glad that a lot of people have seen it, witnessed it over the years.
I still think The Right Stuff is one of the best films I've ever done. I also think it's one of the best films made. I really think it's a fine film.
Now, what's the story with the Naval Academy ring? Now, I understand that you wanted to have a Naval Academy ring.
I did. And one of the people in the production office, whose job it was to supply those kinds of things, kept coming up with pieces of junk from the 5 and 10, and I finally had to explain to him rather strongly that I wanted a real 1947 Annapolis graduation ring, simply because Alan Shepard made sure that he got that ring in any picture of him that was ever taken, whether it was a Life magazine photograph or whatnot. And I wanted to have the same ring.